Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm going to take about 30 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders, business owners, to provide you some great Ironman mindsets to help you scale your business, to become a better leader and push yourself out of a comfort zone into something that's going to stretch you. We hope you really enjoy these shows and encourage you to like and share with your friends, your network, family members. Try and get a wider audience and improve our industry. On each show, I'm going to try and pull out one type of Ironman mindset, insight that you could take back to your business. And if you're implementing one insight every single week or all the shows, then it's going to make a dramatic improvement to your business. Super excited as well to share that we're partnering up with Boss Business Management Software, which is the ultimate cloud-based solution providing comprehensive insights and tools to optimize performance. Join the Boss community today and transform your business so you too can say, my boss is working for me. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. Really excited today to be joined by Melissa Mitchell-Blitch. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining me. So we met through Zoom a few weeks ago and really impressed with some of the topics that you talked about today. But I'd love my listeners just to get to know you a little bit more, what you do, your background. So maybe just spend a few minutes telling my audience a little bit about you.
Glad to. So I am a coach and consultant to family enterprises. I help them discover what's possible, even in the midst of conflict, change, and complexity, through having conversations that matter and engaging a process of adapting how they think to the challenges that they face. And I got to this work by being on a different side of the table. I was a financial advisor. I did estate planning and financial planning, worked with families who'd had a tremendous amount of financial success, always as a result of a family business. They may not own it anymore, they may not operate it anymore, but they still had this financial interdependence that added a unique complexity to their lives. And I wanted our clients to have someone to help them navigate those challenges. It was the late 90s. I went to the World Wide Web. I couldn't tell you what I searched for, because what do you search for when you're describing someone who does that sort of work? Couldn't find anything, couldn't find anyone. And in 2003, I decided to leave finance, get a master's in psychology to become the sort of person who could help families with those sorts of complexities.
Awesome. So you've been doing it obviously ever since.
I launched my practice in July of 2010. So we're coming up on 14 years.
Okay, cool. Now, do you work in a specific part of the country? Do you work nationally, internationally?
My clients are scattered around North America.
Okay. So tell me, some of the clients that we work with, I hear some of the challenges at some of our peer group or mastermind meetings, and just a lot of family dynamics there. Maybe children beginning to take over from their parents. Some are working in the business, some are not, and some of those challenges can get pretty heated. We probably only see part of it, but I mean, is that a typical example of where you start to get involved in becoming almost like that third party to come in and just listen and learn and understand some of the dynamics and help give them some guidance?
Families, well, think about it. Family is complex enough. Work, business relationships are complex enough. And then you combine those two things that have very different sort of ethos to them. Family tends to be about relationship and care and warmth. A business, we're generating the income to sustain our lives and our ability to do the things that we want, to spend and to save and to share. And when you combine those two, there can be a lot to gain, a lot of joy and pleasure in working with family, but there can be a lot to lose. And it's typically when enterprising families reach a point of conflict or pain that they go looking for someone like myself to come in and help them. They've realized, I've had families say, because we're family, we can get through anything. And then they realize that they can't, that simply loving and caring each other is not enough to get them through the challenges that they are facing. And I'll just say from the top that differences are normal. So conflict is normal. And it doesn't have to be divisive, but how we behave when we have a difference of opinion, how we behave when there's conflict between us, how we treat each other, when we have different priorities, that so much will determine, more the outcome of the impact on the family and the impact of the business, sometimes than the decision itself that they make. It's how they go about navigating those differences that's so impactful.
Right. Do you see any, I suppose, an interesting question, probably pretty broad here, but do you see any sort of differences between younger companies, older generational type companies, small companies only do maybe a few million revenue compared to, 100, $200 million companies? Is there a lot of differences in some of those challenges you see in terms of complexity?
In different stages of the business life, you'll experience different challenges. When it comes to multi-generational family businesses, there's a big difference between the second generation and the third generation, transitioning from owner operators that are siblings, they grew up in the same household, have shared a lot of experiences together, and transitioning to that cousins consortium, that third generation, different households, more, like in-laws, diverse experiences, that sort of thing. There's a big difference, or there can be a big difference between owner operators that are second generation siblings and once you move to cousins, the third generation and beyond.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And part of that too is the simple math, of the numbers. You're dividing a company between, a handful of siblings, but then it can grow geometrically, to cousins, and that same pie, is getting shared by, more people.
Right. When situations like that come across, your desk, is it at a point where there's already conflict, there's already challenges, there's already high emotions going on, and it's tough for you to sort of go in and unravel that, compared to, if somebody's thinking, hey, I want to transition to a family member 5-10 years down the line. I mean, I'm assuming that's an easier path to go around or conversation to have, that you're setting that roadmap in place. Is that fair?
It's totally fair that when we are proactive and there's not present conflict, there's not, present, a high level present pain, it's easier to think objectively, and to make those joint decisions. And unfortunately, pain is a stronger motivator than pleasure. And so more families reach out to me and family business consultants like me when there is already a level of pain. And it is harder, but it's not impossible, so starting now, the best time to start is now. We hope it's proactive, but the reality is most folks don't reach out to engage a professional and to invest the time and the energy and the money into, a process of getting support and help unless they're feeling that pain.
Right. When they come to you, are you looking for people to come to you with already sort of a framework in place, or does talk me through the process? Do you have like a series of questions that you start to ask them so that you start to get a direction of what that makeup might be?
For me, I'll give you a big picture answer to that question. For me, the family is the client. So if Uncle Joe reaches out to me, Uncle Joe isn't my client. If Uncle Joe is paying me, Uncle Joe isn't my client. My client is that family, and families are made up of individuals. So I'll take families through a discovery process, depending on what's going on, depending on what their priorities are, depending on what the structure of their shared assets are. We may go through a confidential questionnaire. We'll definitely go through one-on-one conversations with me so I can get the perspective from each person to put together that whole big picture. And then after that discovery phase, to come back to talk about, observations and recommendations for the family to prioritize their priorities, and for us to establish a plan, for action and the next steps. But there's typically what you may call a presenting problem. Here's the pain point, that's bringing us in, but it's a system. And so there are multiple points of influence and consideration. And so just wanting to understand, the family system, the business system that we're working with, so that we can make a recommendation and engage a path that makes sense for them, as opposed to a, one size fits all sort of process.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Now, are you meeting with the whole family at once? Are you doing it in different stages? I mean, obviously, I suppose it depends on the size of the family and all the different dynamics here. Or are you meeting with the parents initially? How does? I mean,
There's
there must be some
typically,
point where you're trying to get everybody on the same page.
yes, there's typically one person that reaches out, maybe a small handful of people, depending on the size of the family. But those, that contact point or points, again, are not the client. And I think if you, to be able to help, a family, I need to be able to connect with, earn the trust and respect, of all their family members. So that chemistry is really important. And I suggest that, all right, even if you have been trusted, to be the one to interview the consultants and to make that hiring decision, I still give them the invitation. Let's do a Zoom to meet everyone, let them ask questions, that sort of thing, because that relationship is an important part. Trust, respect, feeling like this is someone I could work with. I believe this person can help me is an important part of the relationship. So I always give that invitation. Again, even if there's a point person or persons who have been charged with making these decisions, I like to give the invitation to meet everyone because they would be my client.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Now, when you're having those discussions and coming up with a framework of what that solution might look like, I assume there's probably different phases.
So are you talking about like creating like a family constitution and governance and
Yeah.
that sort
Yeah.
of thing?
Yeah.
Sometimes that is a part of my work. My work primarily focuses on the people side of things, help, family dynamics, personality, motivation, joint decision making, communication, conflict resolution. If they don't have those things, they're not going to be able to effectively create governance or a family constitution, or even if they do, they won't maintain it because those external behaviors of following through, and I've had a family to do this before. We went through a family business participation, guidelines sort of process. The current leading generation, created a draft. The rising generation created a draft. They kind of compared and contrasted and came up with their plan. And one of those criteria included, how the family would make hiring decisions for family members or hiring decisions, period. And they all agreed unanimously that there had to be a genuine need of the business before, a job would be offered, including the family. They couldn't just be a family member wants to work here, we're going to make a position for them. Well, before the ink was even dry on the paper, a family member lost their job, needed and wanted an income, and they made a position within the family business for that person. And it was kind of a hodgepodge of a couple of different things, but you and I were talking in our preparation about the difference between like a technical challenge and an adaptive challenge. And this is one of the things where, their quote unquote outer game, here's how we're going to do things, didn't line up with their inner game yet. And if we don't have a place, how are we going to handle that? And it undermined the work that they had done. So that was earlier in my work, and it could still happen, now, because sometimes we don't know if our inner game will support our outer game until it's challenged, and that was an early lesson to be sure to prepare the inner game, to be sure that it's going to support the outer game, the behaviors that families want
Right.
to hold themselves to.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that term, being adaptable, because it's just like being a really good, effective leader. You have to adapt with things that are hit at you. I mean, typical entrepreneurs are hit at something every day that there's a challenge to them. And that sort of ties into my next question around, I mean, you must see it in terms of, of gone through COVID, we're going through some, challenges in the economy. I mean, all those types of things affect family dynamics, the business, the income coming in. So people must be able, must adapt to those types of challenges. And is that something you see quite a bit?
It's what I see, and part of it, I'm sure, is it's my lens, is that I see that so many of the challenges that families face, that leaders face, are really more about adaptive challenges. And I'll explain that just real briefly. I like to let the words work for us. A technical challenge, there might be a technique for it, shared root word. There's a solution. We can call in an expert to help us, to tell us what to do, and get excited that we, found the technique, the solution to this technical challenge. When it's a technical challenge and you can do that, by all means, do that. So many of the challenges that leaders face, that families face, there's not one right solution. It's how you think about the challenge, your options, and how you, especially in the context of a family business, again, how you work together, contribute, collaborate together to make that decision, how you adapt your thinking to that decision is going to determine the quote unquote success of that outcome, sometimes more so than the exact choice that you make. So many of our challenges are about how we think, not just what we do. And as I said earlier, even sometimes if it's what we do, if our inner game, our mindset, our belief about how the world works and how we need to show up in it, if that mindset does not support the outer game, the behaviors that we say we want to do, those behaviors won't be sustained.
Yeah. And I suppose that's where your psychology degree comes in, to be able to weave your way through that and ask the right questions and understand and listen.
One of the challenging things about our mindset, which again is how we think about the world and how we need to show up in it, and that is our inner game that drives our behaviors, our outer game. Much of our mindset is unconscious. It is outside of our just, our walking around awareness. Now we can illuminate it through, processes. And once we know what it is, we have the opportunity to shift it, change it, over time, adapt it over time. But so often we are running on autopilot on these unconscious beliefs we're not aware of, but they're running the show.
Yeah. But there must be some real challenges with that, though, that mindset, especially if you're dealing with different generations. When I look at the Gen Z, millennials just have a different mindset than, some of the boomers, the older generations. And that must be tough for you to try and work through that.
We tend to judge what we don't understand. And like the generational differences that you're talking about, I mean, think about the life experience differences that a boomer versus a millennial has had. Their life experiences will help shape their values, their priorities, their preferences. And when those are different than us, we can easily judge them. And again, that's an opportunity to adapt how we think, to get curious and genuinely seek to understand what might be motivating this, what might be driving this sort of behavior, this sort of preference, and then sometimes simply just accepting, differences are normal. Other people have a right to have different priorities and preferences and values from us. If we want to still be in relationship, and that may be a functional relationship. I work with my third cousin. We don't want to, destroy the business. We need to function together. Or it may be, a warm and fuzzy, real genuine, intimate relationship, whatever that looks like. If we want to have effective relationships, it's going to take, prioritizing the we over me sometimes, and accepting that there are going to be differences.
So taking it back to the audience, if there are people out there that they're in a family business, they've got family members in the business, outside of the business, they could anticipate things going sideways in the future in terms of tough conversations or how that business will transition. What would be, I suppose, their first steps in starting to think about how to handle that?
I would encourage anyone I mean, and it's not just limited to, family-owned businesses, but again, if you work with family, the risk is so much greater. There's just a whole nother risk. But everyone, to be proactive, to know that conflict, it's not if, it's when. Challenges, it's not if, it's when. Complexity, it's not if, it's when. And just to recognize that we live more and more in a world where it's not so much about just tell me what to do and I'll do it, but needing to be able to expand the way that we think so that we can think systemically, so that we can think about complex things where there's not one resolution or solution, but to act proactively, to know these challenges are here. Because really to do that transformational work where we get our mindset to line up with and drive, that outer game that we want and that end game that we want for our businesses, it's going to take just growth. And the great news for me, I get excited, is I can continue to learn and grow across my lifespan as long as I'm willing to engage that. And clients can do the same. So these challenges will come. What might they do proactively to prepare for when they come and to, moderate the intensity of them, because there's a lot to lose and a lot to gain by investing the time, the energy, and the money into equipping and preparing your family members and even key employees. So many family businesses, they really care about, the people that work with them as well, but to grow, to invest in your family, to invest in your team members so that you all have more and more skill, ability, and capacity to face the challenges that come.
Right. If people want to find out more, maybe ask you some questions, maybe they're already experiencing some challenges or they are anticipating some challenges, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and just have a conversation?
I trust you'll put this in the show notes, but my website, Mitchell-Blitch.com. They can reach out to me there. My email address is melissa@melissamitchellblitch.com. I would welcome folks to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Great. Well, that was really enlightening. There are, I come across so many different challenges with family dynamics, with businesses, transitioning through generations. And I think this will be really helpful to at least start to think about what that looks like and obviously come prepared and get ready to sort of answer maybe some tough questions. So appreciate your time today, Melissa.
Very glad to be here. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today and you got some great Ironman mindset takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clickybeard. Love to get you, your friends, your employees to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe to your various podcast channels. Visit our website, commerciallandscaper.com or wilson-360.com. You could check out our digital courses. You could check out peer groups, coaching, my book, Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. And we just want you to have a pure, dead, brilliant day. And finally, thanks again to Boss Business Management Software, which is the ultimate cloud-based solution providing comprehensive insights and tools to optimize performance. Join the Boss community today and transform your business so you too can say, my boss is working for me. Cheers, everyone.